Today we're going to be discussing the Mohs scale of hardness. You might be asking yourself, what in the heck is that? Well, by the end of this video, you'll have learned about something that is actually a very important tool in helping solve some of the mysteries of ancient civilizations. You can also have fun showing all of your friends what you've just learned. So let's jump right in. The Mohs hardness scale was developed way back in 1822 by a German man, Friedrich Mohs. Friedrich Mohs was a mineralogist, and he studied the various properties of minerals. He wanted to devise a way to identify minerals based on how hard they are, and ultimately came up with a chart of relative hardness. His method measures a mineral's ability to resist scratching and became known as the Mohs hardness scale. The scale assigns minerals a number between 1 and 10, with the hardness increasing with each higher number. You can use this scale to identify a mineral by seeing which one it scratches versus which other minerals scratch it. The Mohs scale has now been used for over 200 years, and it's an easy to understand way to measure the hardness of a number of stones and minerals. This test is used by people all over the world today. This is the Mohs scale. Notice that talc is the softest mineral and diamond is the hardest. Harder minerals will be able to scratch any mineral that is softer than itself. So for example, quartz, which is 7 on the scale, will scratch any minerals that are lower than 7 on the scale. This scale can be used with other objects to determine their hardness as well. For example, you can see some objects other than minerals and what their estimated hardness is. Your fingernail has a hardness value of about 2.5. So your fingernail will scratch softer minerals like gypsum, a 2 on the hardness scale, and talc, a 1 on the hardness scale. But your fingernail will not scratch something like the mineral calcite, a 3 on the scale, or a common object like a penny, which is also 3 on the Mohs scale. One fun fact to remember, and it's one that a lot of people don't know, rocks are actually aggregates of 1 or more minerals. When trying to determine a rock or mineral type, geologists and mineralogists will typically look at several characteristics, including its color, crystal formation, luster, which is how shiny it is, and what we will primarily focus on, its hardness. Let's put the Mohs hardness scale into action and do some tests. You'll be able to do the same and impress all of your friends. I went down to a small stream bed in the back of my house and found some rocks for testing. After watching this clip, have fun with what you've learned here and head outside and try and round up a selection of different types of rocks for your own testing. You don't have to have a creek or stream bed to find rocks. You can find them just about anywhere. In yards, driveways, and fields, they're everywhere. Try and get some decent size samples for testing. Rocks that are about the size of your palm, or maybe a bit larger, that will provide a nice surface area for scratch testing. If any of your rock samples have dirt or crud on them, wash them up a bit so that you'll be able to better see results of the testing we'll be doing. Here's what I picked up. Now I let these dry out a bit since they had been in the water. If you notice, I actually found a couple of items that aren't rocks, including a couple of pieces of broken pottery and a marble. And I also found a really cool rock called fool's gold. It's called fool's gold because many people think it's real gold, but it's not. The shiny gold-colored portion is the mineral formerly known as pyrite. Pyrite has a hardness of 6 to 6.5, so it's actually pretty hard. Okay, we'll need some items to test the hardness of our rocks. These will be our testing tools. Geologists and other scientists actually use formal testing kits out in the field like the one pictured, but we can use some items you might find around the house for our testing. We'll be using the following: our fingernails, a copper penny, a steel nail, or you can use a butter knife or a pair of scissors if you don't have a nail, just be careful with them, a magnifying glass to look for scratching, a piece of glass, preferably flat, and if you have it, a piece of quartz. My daughter, who happens to love collecting minerals, let me borrow her piece of quartz that she purchased at a mineral store. And when you're finding a penny to use, check the date in the lower right portion. If your penny has a date of 1982 or older, then it's mostly all copper. If it's more recent than 1982, it's 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. Zinc is about 2.5 on the Mohs scale and copper is 3. Those are a couple of interesting facts that you can share with your friends. Now before you start, it's a very good idea to place everything on a piece of cardboard to protect the table or desk that you're working on. Don't forget to let your parents know what you're doing. Maybe they'd love to help you out as well. Okay, now that we have everything set up for testing, let's have some fun. Let's test our rocks. Here are my items. I immediately recognize two of my items, but we'll test their hardness just to make sure. I recognize this as a piece of granite. It looks like it's been cut and it's polished on one side. Based on how thick it is, as well as that polish, it looks to me like it may be part of a broken granite countertop that you can find in many kitchens. This rock is the one with the section of fool's gold or pyrite on it. But what type of rock is the pyrite on? It's limestone. Limestone is a rock, but not a mineral. As I mentioned earlier, a rock is comprised of more than one mineral, and limestone contains several, including clay, dolomite, quartz, and that shiny pyrite. These next two stones look very similar. Maybe they're both the same stone type, one of them just a bit bigger than the other? This item in the lower left looks to me like it's flint. Flint is abundant in the area of Ohio where I live. The nearby Flint Ridge Quarry is famous for being utilized by Native Americans as a resource for making their flint tools. Let's start by testing these two similar looking rocks. I'm using this steel nail to see if it scratches the surface. Sure enough, it does. Since steel is about 6.5 in hardness, this stone is softer than that. Now let's try scratching it with a penny, which is a 3. Again, looks like these two stones are softer than copper, so let's move now to my fingernail and see if my fingernail can scratch both of these. Yep. So these two stones are very soft. I'm confident that both are shale. Shale is a very soft rock. Let's try this piece that I think is flint. Flint happens to have a hardness of 7, so if it's flint, it won't be able to scratch it with this steel nail, which is a 6.5. Sure enough, it's harder than steel. Granite is interesting. It's a rock and it's actually comprised of 3 different minerals, each with a different hardness. Quartz is about a 7, feldspar 6 to 6.5, and mica 2 to 3. The flat surface you see sparkling is feldspar. The darker colored specks is mica. The rest of it is very small and compact quartz grains. Overall, granite has a hardness of 7, and when I did the scratch test using the piece of quartz, you can see some very light scratching. That's likely the softer feldspar and mica minerals showing the scratching, but not the quartz minerals, which are about the same hardness of the quartz that I tried to scratch the stone with. So there you have it. Have fun doing your own experiments testing for rock hardness and trying to figure out which rocks are harder than others. If you really enjoy rocks and minerals, have your folks help you pick up a book like the one pictured. I've had this since I was a teenager, and it has all kinds of great information about rocks and minerals, including their hardness and their color, 2 key characteristics that will better help you identify the rocks that you find. Now that you have a better idea of what the Mohs scale of hardness is, let's think about what role it can play in helping us to solve some of the world's archaeological mysteries. The ancient Egyptians, for example, are credited with making various structures, monuments, and statues out of all kinds of very hard stone types, between 6 and 8 on the Mohs hardness scale, yet many of the tools they utilized were softer than the stone they were working with. So how did they do it? In other videos, we'll explore some ancient Egyptian sites to help us answer that question, but it will be important to understand the concept of the Mohs hardness scale. Who developed the hardness scale?
Friedrich Mohs.
What mineral is the hardest on the Mohs scale, and which one is the softest?
Diamond and talc.
What are aggregates of one or more minerals called?
Rocks.